This is one of many systems of drafting trousers. The general rule is that you have to practice it 6 times in order to get it. However, it'd be redundant doing all that practice only to forget by the time you've finished your first pair of trousers, because you aren't drafting trousers every other day. So just take 1 or 2 practice runs so that you learn the system and just refer to your notes, or my video, I guess. I was suggested to practice with lining paper. You can get it from B&Q, a 10-meter roll for about £3 or £4. This 20-meter roll, 1400 grain, and about £7.50, because that's all they had in stock. 1000 grain at least, minimum, because it'll roll less, but you can iron it quite safely. I'd say it was superior to pattern paper in this case, in convenience and cost-wise. So long as it's at least 50 centimeters wide, with a 10-meter roll you should be able to get at least 8 practice drafts. We can practice the front trouser and then flip the paper over, practice the first trouser again and then cut it out, put it onto some new paper, draft the back, then flip it over, put the front back on and try it again. Twice the practice, same with the paper. Importantly, scale is a measurement used, and it's half the seat measurement. And I assume it only exists so that you can say 1/8 scale instead of 1/16 the seat. I think you should write down all your measurements beforehand. It'll just be convenient working out the fractions as well. You can get to measuring later. Maurice Sidwell has a good video on it, but for now you can use the measurements that I'm going to slip in the description. Like I said, pre-calculating the scale just simplifies things. In this case, with scale being 48, half scale is 24, quarter scale is 12, and eighth scale is 6. But if it were like 6.125, just use 6.1, obviously. Unless you're a heathen using imperial. Start with a line along the centre of your paper and square it off at one end. The intersecting point is 0. I suggest you write all of the numbers such that they are inside the pattern so that when you cut out, the numbers are still visible. It'll help you for the back trouser. Take the body rise and take 4 from that. That 4 is the waistband. And measure from 0 down the horizontal line and mark that, which is point 1, 29 centimeters. From point 1, measure down the line again, take the inside leg and add 1. Mark that as point 2, 73 centimeters. Point 3 is the knee. Half the inside leg measurement and add 5. Measure up from point 2, so the hem. Square off all of our points so far. Back to point 1, 4 is 1/8 scale plus 2.5 centimeters, so in this case 8.5 centimeters. Point 5 is another 1/8 scale, but plus 1 centimeter. There is also point 5a, which is 1.5 centimeters above 4. Square off point 4 against the waistline, and measure 1/8 scale plus 2 centimeters from 4, and that is point 6. Point 7 is where the line you just squared off and the waistline meet, and that is your fly line. And point 7a is half a centimeter away, moving up on the waistline. Connect points 5a and 7a. From point 6, square off towards the back of your trouser, which is now the seat line. The line needs to be at least half scale or quarter the seat, same difference. In this case, measure half scale, 24 centimeters, that is point 8. Square this one up to the waistline, where it intersects is point 9. One centimeter towards the fly on the waistline from 9 is 10. connect point 8 and 10. That is the line that you'll cut along when you cut it out after we give it a curve. Go to point 5A and draw a 45-degree line up and right. If you have a ruler like mine, you can just use that, or you can put your Maths GCSE to use. For point 11, take the distance between points 5 and 5A and half it. That is the distance between 5A and 11. "12, 13, 14, and 15 are the hem and knee points. So 12 and 13 are quarter of the hem measurement from 2, and the same for the knee from 3. In this case, it's 9¼ centimeters to 12 and 13 from 2, and 11 centimeters to 14 and 15 from 3. Join the lines 12 and 14 and 13 and 15, taking the lines up to a little shy of the seat line. If you have a curvy ruler, not necessarily like mine, a gently curved ruler or some such, you can use that to make the curve line from points 5 to the 12-14 line. What we could do is join them with a straight line and draw a curve into the pattern, reaching the furthest point from our straight line around halfway through, and joining 14 and 12 straightening up. So long as it's a neatish curve and doesn't intersect with the 12-14 line too soon, it'll be okay. I think that's figuration. I think that figuration, which is what I think it's called, is like the Matrix. Once you see it, it's quite clear to you. Once it clicks, you just understand what's going on. But I don't know how to explain it. Do similar for the 13 and 15 lines connecting it to point 8. Make a straight line between 15 and 8. Starting from 10, curve outside of the pattern, millimeters at most, rejoining 8 at right angles from the seat line, curving outwards, and then at the halfway point between 15 and 8, crossing into the pattern. Get low to inspect the curve. We want something very smooth with few to no sudden changes of direction, and it is kind of difficult to see from above. For drawing on the seat curve, or rise, or however you'd like to refer to it, from 7A, don't deviate from the line too much too far before getting past point 6, and be sure to intersect 11 and 5. Using chalk is liable to make drawing the curve easier, kinda just because it does. Go back down to point 2 and mark 1 centimeter above your first line, that is point 16. Connect 16 with 12 and 13. This line doesn't need to be here, but it represents the slant to the hem of the trousers. You could flip the sheet over and draft a whole nother front trouser before cutting it out. Twice the practice with equal the paper. When you lay your front pattern on your second slip of paper, be sure to leave a good few centimeters above the waistline for the trouser back's waistline. You do well to fix the patterns in place with some masking tape or something. Copy off the construction line at the hem, knee, seat, and waist. So the construction lines. Point 17 is 1/8 scale up from 5, so 6 centimeters. At point 17, you also should square it off only a few centimeters towards the hem. Point 18 and 19 are the hem and knee points again. You're marking points which are 2 centimeters further out from 12 and 14. You could also mark points 2 centimeters further out at 13 and 15 as well at this point. Connect your newly marked points 18 and 19 with a straight line and go almost all the way up to the seat line. If you used a curvy ruler for the first inseam line, then do the same. But whether you're doing it freehand or otherwise, it won't connect to point 17, it will go through the vertical line, making point 20. Maybe measure your curved 14 to 5 line and try to replicate that measurement. What we don't want to do is take out too much fabric. We don't want to curve too steeply right at the top. If we draw a straight line between 19 and 20, we want the curve to be quite symmetrical on that line. It can be by eye, and we're going to correct or finalize this line later anyway. 21 is a variable one that is based on the wearer-to-be's derriere. 21 from 4 will be between 3.5 and 6.5, the average being 5 centimeters. 4 to 21 will be 3.5 for someone with a large behind, and 6.5 will be for somebody with a pancake butt. Square point 21 all the way to the side seam of the front trouser, which will be 22. 23 is where line 6 to 8 and the first line you drew intersect. Draw a line connecting 22 and 23 and carry on that line till it's off of the front pattern and marks a small line onto the back pattern. Where your newest line hits the fly line is 24. Then square that line from the curved line, not point 24, up towards the waistline and keep going for a few centimeters. You'd also do well to backtrack that line as well over the curved line. Measure the distance from 21 to 24. From the waistline of your trouser, measure the difference up the line and take 1 centimeter from that for a regular pair of trousers, or add a centimeter for a pair which will have suspenders. Measure out from point 5A along the 45-degree line and mark the point half a centimeter further on, which is 26. Point 27 is where the line going through point 23 hits the curved line, so practically where 25's line originated. Extend the seat line onto the back pattern. Then, from point 27, measure half scale plus 5 centimeters onto the extended seat line. In this case, it's 29 centimeters, and that is point 28. Square 28 up to the waistline, and that's 29. Then, 1 centimeter towards the fly line, or center back seam, however you want to look at it, is point 30. Connect 28 and 30, and you'll cut along that line when you cut it out. Points 31 and 32 are 2 centimeters vertically down from 13 and 15. You may have marked them on already, but now they need numbers. Connect 31 and 32 and carry that line on to a little below the seat line. You should use chalk. Chalk is easier in all the ways, but like earlier, join 28 to 33 with a straight line. With the chalk, start at 30, giving the pattern a convex curve only a few millimeters out of the pattern, straightening by the time it gets to the seat line, staying close to the straight line and crossing it about halfway down to create a concave curve and straightening into 32. Get low again and check your run. It should be a smooth run. If you think it's really close to perfect, then it should end up better when we cut it out. The idea is that it looks like the shape of a person's leg from their front profile. At some point you need to connect 25 to 30, so why not now? Move the front pattern and connect 25 to 27, which will result in one cohesive line. Carry on that line that was drawn from 25 to the waistline. At some point you need to verify that point 20 is in the right place and that the line leading up to it is correct. Use your fingers and gently walk the pattern up from points 14 and 19 to 5 and 20, as it were. If point 5 hits another point of the horizontal line drawn from 17, just remark where 20 is on that line. Change the line 19 to 20 as appropriate. This kind of thing takes a keenish eye and practice. Like I said, figuration. All you want to do now is at the knee and construction line below the seat line is cut notches. These will help you when constructing the trousers and in the not quite immediate step. All you want to do now is at the knee and construction line below the seat line is cut some notches. These will help you when constructing the trousers and in the not quite immediate next step. At point 19, mark a point 1 centimeter in. Flip your front trouser over and line up point 20 and 5, and also line up point 14 to that new point you made near point 19. This is the point that you'll chalk out the rise. Follow the line to 27 from 25 and begin to curve in order to neatly intersect 26. Then carry on to and then past 20. Now this is where your wearer's perineum sits, so this is an important line not to mess up. You want to create a gentle curve, making it as comfortable as possible. As earlier, you need to check that the lines 15 to 8 and 32 to 28 are equal and balanced. Balance is important. Walk the front pattern up the back pattern and adjust it as appropriate. You also need to place a dart on the back trouser, no less than 10 cm from point 30. Be sure to mark a centimetre either side and go 8 cm down. We need to check the waist that your pattern is forecast to make. You might have done it earlier if we wanted to change it more easily, but now it's fine. Measure points 7A to 10 and add that to 25 to 30. Compare your measurements to half the waist measurement plus 6, which accounts for seam and the darts. It should be about 2.5 centimeters larger than that. If it's smaller, then you may have a problem somewhere, but the 1/4 decimeter is very important because we are going to ease that into the waistband. We'd want to reduce the amount of extra fabric with linen, cotton, mohair, light fresco, and other lightweight fabrics. Wools, though, it should be very simple to ease in 2.5 centimeters over as much as 40 centimeters. If you want to make the waist here smaller, you could increase the size of the dart by a little bit, or the centre back, but avoid changing the side seam. Though, if it is wrong, you may have miscalculated the size of the derriere and wrongly decided on the distance between point 4 and 21. In my case, it's about 47.5 centimeters, and the waist measurement is 77.5 centimeters. So half plus 6 is 47.75 centimeters, which is off by 2 3/4 centimeters. Hence, I'm just going to increase each side of my dart by a millimeter. Or I could go back and lower point 21 by half a centimeter. We will ease in the extra 2.5 centimeters of fabric when we attach the waistband, so the trouser will be the correct circumference. Then do flippity flip and do it again. Just before I cut it out, you noticed I measured 1 centimeter below the center line on my hem. I marked that as point 33 that I joined to 18 and 31. Again, this represents the slant that we'll put on the trouser, but we don't need to see it here. Labeling my patterns and making a hole in them so that I can hang them properly. You don't have to mark all the points in order, as it were. I just did it in numerical order for the sake of timestamps, convenience, making it as simple as possible for me. But you can write 7 before you found 6, and find 31 and 32 at the same time as 18 and 19, and 27 after 24, as long as the points are in the right place. Should you want to draft a woman's pair of trousers, at point 5, take it back 2.5 centimeters from where the men's point 5 would be, making 4 to 5 8th scale minus 1.5. 5A to 11 is still calculated in the same way. Then that 1.5 centimeters is added to the back trouser. So from 5 to 17 won't be 8th scale, it'll be 8th scale plus 1.5 centimeters. Plus you'd quadruple the number of darts, so there'd be 2 on the back and 2 on the front. This accounts for genital prominence and birthing hips. And I have drafted a pair, so I have the footage for that. Probably no time soon.